So I did this benefit in Nashville last week for Kid Rock, and all the proceeds went to, I think, the fallen soldiers or something along the military. And if that's not the right charity, I apologize. But something along the military. You know, Kid Rock is the ultimate American. So we do the show, and I guess, I don't know if, I figured Kid Rock was familiar with me a little bit. I assumed, and that's the problem with assuming. I shouldn't have. I don't think he had any clue who I was. And I went last on the show with, it was Adam Carolla. It was John Reap, Chris Porter, a couple other people. It was a show that wasn't necessarily my audience, but they had me closing it. So Carolla goes up, and he goes over his time, but he didn't do it like being a dick. He was just like, they were telling him that Afro Man was the musical artist at the end. So I'm talking about, I close the show as far as the comedians go. So they kept saying, Afro Man's not here. He's run late. We're going to have you stretch. Well, the promoters were telling me that I was going to have to stretch. And I was like, all right. And usually that's how it goes. The last guy is the one that stretches and gets off. Well, I don't know who told Adam he had to stretch. So he feels like he's stretching. Then he brings Kid Rock on stage. They're having a back and forth banter for like 10 minutes. And I looked around and I go, does he know I'm next? I still got to go up. I was like, so anyways, they finally bring me up. I got a decent applause. Definitely was not my typical audience. And it was crazy because I walked on stage and I got the courtesy claps. Carolla, they act like Chris Rock got announced. He got a huge ovation when he got announced. So I was like, okay, this was definitely more his audience because they went nuts. And then I go up and I got but I heard a couple screams from here and they're like, oh shit. Like people that are surprised to see me. And it took me, I think I did 20 minutes. First couple, it took me to get them. But man, once I got them, they was locked in with me. So I ended up having a ball and, ripped. I hate when comedians say that. I destroyed Standing O, but I did really well. Especially going last on a show that if I would have put it together, I would have had Adam go last. Because for that audience, he was the biggest name for that audience. But, yeah, I mean, it's neither here nor there. That's the second time I've been on a show where I would say not my core audience that I had to close. And I like it because it makes you stronger as a comic. And sometimes I like doing shows like that. I did a show about seven years ago with Judd Apatow at the Largo in L.A., and I had to go up after Adam Sandler. I went last on this show after Adam Sandler did, like, music bits, guitar. The crowd went nuts, and then he just got off, and then Judd goes, all right, Gary Owen. I was like, oh, shit. And that was the same. It's the same energy. It takes me a couple minutes to get them, but once I finally get them, the crowd's with me. It was very similar to that. But that show following Adam Sandler was a little rougher. One, I think 7 years ago, I wasn't, even though I've been doing this a long time, I wasn't as seasoned and well-versed. And now my material, I feel like, is just so universal. It's not too far left, too far right. Everybody gets what I'm talking about. So it's the second time it's happened to me in my career that I just went up on a show that I typically, if I looked at the lineup, like the show with Judd Apatow, I would have thought Adam Sandler would have went last. That show with Kid Rock, I would have thought Adam Carolla. Maybe it's with the Adams. What's with me following Adams? I don't know. But both shows end up being great. I'm glad I did it. Worked out. Got great ovation for the crowd. But it takes them a couple minutes because they're coming off such a high and such a rush. And then you got to go up after that. But it ended up being great. But the funny part was, after the show, we're backstage, and somebody said, hey, Bob wants to holler at you. I go, all right, who the hell's Bob? I don't know that's Kid Rock's real name. So I was like, oh. So I go over there, and somehow he was already lit. He wasn't Bob. He was Kid Rock. And I ended up talking to his manager because Kid Rock's got his club, the Kid Rock Honky Tonk down there. So we went there, and they close off like the third floor for just people that are associated with the show. And I got to meet a lot of people. I got to catch up with a lot of people, a lot of comics that isn't in my normal circle. I got to actually interact with John Reap, Adam Carolla, Chris Porter, and such. And then So it was cool to hang out with them. And then it was funny because Kid, before we went to the his honky tonk, I went to go say hi to him. I'm assuming, again, this one again for assuming, he knew who I was, and it came very apparent. He thought I was funny. He said, man, funny shit and everything. But then he brought up mixed kids or something like that. And he said, they tell me you got mixed kids or something like that. I said, yeah, I got some. And then the fact that he didn't know. He didn't know I had an ex-wife. I got mixed kids, all that stuff. An ex-wife that was black, I should say. I was like, wow. He really had no idea who I was. And then at the end of the night, he's getting ready to leave. And somebody said, you want to go over his house? And I was beat. I couldn't make it. And there's no rumors of Kid Rock being like Diddy. Let's put it like that. So going over Kid Rock's house is usually pretty safe. I was just like, I'm beat. I got nothing left. But before he left, my road manager Brad, he tried to grab Kid and be like, hey, can you get a picture with Gary? And he said something like, oh, I ain't taking no more fucking pictures or something like that. So it wasn't personal to me. And I bet you he don't even remember my road manager asking him. And I looked at Brad. We just started dying laughing. I was like, damn, there's a no. And then there's, I ain't taking no more fucking pictures. So some people can take that the wrong way. I just laugh. Being in entertainment business, I get it when you're done with pictures. And especially if it didn't register who was asking him for the picture. And I don't think he realized who asked him and who he was asking for. But other than that, great experience. I'm glad I did the show in Nashville last week for Kid Rock, and it was dope. And I got to meet him, so I had never met him before. And he had no clue who I was. It happens, little ego check.